Man, 50K in diversity seeming more like a dream as time goes on, but hey, as far from those dreams as I am right now, I was wired to make those dreams come true. So rather than cry about it or something, let's get to work. Man, what's good, YouTube? It's your boy TSO Sage, and I'm back with another video. Man, the NBA is quite the landscape to say the least. Here's a prospect in Ben Simmons who, yes, I've ranted on in the past, but somehow, despite being that bad in the playoffs, he's actually become a little underrated. And usually this type of thing wouldn't matter in the grand scheme of things because after all, we're just fans. But with how the world is looking at Ben Simmons right now, man, his trade stock is plummeted. And thank God that for whatever reason, Joel Embiid extended his contract because Philly would have been down terrible. But that extension doesn't put them in a good spot or anything. They have this huge 6'10" problem on their hands. Ben Simmons wants out. Philly wants him out. But where does he go? Do you put him with a contender? Do you throw him to the gulag? What is his value in the league for real? Like, can Philly make their team better by trading Ben Simmons or acquire a better talent than Ben Simmons? Well, all of these things I'm gonna break down in my own personal opinion at least, and I'm gonna try to name a couple places where Ben Simmons could go. So without further ado, if you guys like the video, don't forget to like the video. Let's get right to it. Benjamin Dewsbury Simmons, the pacifist point guard. Now, when I say pacifist point guard, typically that isn't a bad thing. A lot of teams in the NBA prefer their point guard to be pass first anyway. However, it's 2021, about to be 2022. Nowadays, your point guard has to be able to score as well, as simple as that. And although Ben Simmons does fit that description as well, in fact, he fits it kind of perfectly, the issue is the mental, bro. Ben Simmons doesn't want to score. And it's not in the pass first Steve Nash, Jason Kidd, whatever player you want to name kind of way. It's like something wrong up there. He'll be wide open in the lane. 6'10", stronger than you, faster than you, damn near the best athlete on the court most of the time. Just doesn't want to lay the ball up or dunk the ball. And if I'm just being honest here, I saw this coming, bro. I mean, was it not weird that he just wouldn't shoot the ball? You got Jimmy Butler on the bench like, yo, shoot the three, shoot the three. Don't want to shoot it then. The whole city begging him to shoot, erupting every time he shoots one in the preseason.
They want him to shoot it.
And he does.
A below average three-point shooter. There's Simmons. Yes! He did it! Ben Simmons!
Off-season videos on Twitter every time he shoots the ball go crazy. But this dude, something up there, something not right. He just did not want to shoot the basketball. And now it's looking like he simply does not believe in himself to score the basketball. He's toxic at the perimeter for obvious reasons. He's not really a threat at the mid-range area. And now he's not a threat in the paint unless he's off ball on a cut. And even then, he's not a threat sometimes. It's to the point you got Philly fans being split on an all-star level point guard getting benched late game in the playoffs. That's literally unheard of, I swear. I mean, I know one of you gonna be like, oh, in 1986, like, bro, we get it. It's probably happened to one or two other players in history, whatever, cool. The point is, it's weird. And again, it's sad that I saw it coming. I'm all about defending players, but honestly, this is what happens when you cater to a player too much, too early into a franchise, let alone their own career. As I said in my last video, Ben came into the league, knew he was the shit, got treated like he was the shit, and now people think he's some shit. That's crazy. But the thing is, Ben Simmons as a talent is not that bad. I'm not a Ben Simmons fan at all, okay? And although he has one very, very, very bad weakness, I can admit the dude is damn near elite at every other thing in basketball. And considering his age, if you somehow got him to snap out of it, this is a player you could build around. But getting Ben Simmons to snap out of it is seeming just as unrealistic as getting those same trade offers you used to get for Ben Simmons. The James Hardens, the Damian Lillards, and any other of those premier superstar rumors, yeah, throw them out the window. Also throw out any of the young ascending stars, the Devin Bookers, Zach LaVines, Karl Anthony Towns as well. Those players are gone too. Cause now it's at the point where most of the teams with a young star on it kind of want to see what they can do with that young star in terms of how their roster's looking coming into next season. And even if you could think of a team that's still hopeless but has a young star on it, they're just like, what would getting Ben Simmons even do for us? Make us 5 to 10 wins better, I guess? Not to mention, even though Ben's young, he also is expensive. So if I haven't alluded to it already, Ben Simmons should not go to a team where they're essentially swapping young stars, because that doesn't do anything for anybody, really. In the eyes of Philly, you're adding an unproven talent next to Joel Embiid, which, yeah, it could work, but you want something more guaranteed. You're trying to win a championship. Oh, but Sage, the Nets and the Bucks, bro. Philly's trying to win a championship. They have Joel Embiid, who's 27 years old. That's another thing. People are acting like Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons even are still these young talents. They're not exactly old, but they're entering their prime, bro. bro. Time flew. But back to the subject at hand, in terms of looking at it from the other trash team's perspective, even if we want to decisive Ben Simmons and say he's just completely a better player than the star player you have that's young, for most teams that young player has more promise than Ben Simmons, is barely even worse than Ben Simmons, and if we wanted to overdo it and say Ben Simmons clears all of the players in this situation, how many of those teams are still then built for Ben Simmons to just plop on and for that team to succeed? Now don't get it twisted and don't get me confused. I'm all for a team taking a step back and creating a situation where Ben Simmons can't win, but they zero in on developing him as a player. But I'm talking from the perspective of a bad NBA team, or to be PC about it, non-playoff teams. For example, and yes, it's extreme, but why would the Pelicans give up Zion for Ben Simmons? Even if you were just 10 toes on Ben Simmons and Ben Simmons is better than Zion somehow. Cool, you tripping big shoes, but whatever. But what do the Pelicans gain resetting their franchise to then build around Ben Simmons again? You're already nerfing him crazy to say he's around Ben Simmons level. Then you have to add he's younger than Ben Simmons and he has a much higher upside than Ben Simmons. I'm not trying to drag it too much longer, but teams that fit this criteria would literally throw up if they just nuked it for Ben Simmons. Teams like the Pistons, the Hornets, the Timberwolves, the Kings, hell, even the Cavs. Again, it's like even if Ben was somehow better, what do you gain? So with that, we can cross out that idea in the teams that apply. Now let's move on to the teams who suck and could potentially give you a bunch of role players. In this situation, I don't necessarily know if that works out for Philly actually, because in this situation, you're talking about teams that have nobody near the talent of Ben Simmons on it. You're just essentially trading for depth, which is always a cool ideology in the NBA. But as we've seen in this postseason, and the one before that, 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 you see where I'm going with this? It's a smidge overrated, bro. I know we just came out of a season where damn near every all-star level player got hurt, but I promise you when we be talking about depth, if Tony Snell was the 11th man, they would be fine. No, that's not how that works. Having a deep roster was never about having an insurance policy or whatever in case your franchise guy gets hurt. Rather, it was always about, okay, in game 7, he doesn't have to play 48 minutes. He might play 42. Like, you see what I'm saying, bro? Surely it's a nice thing to have if your team's bench can whoop the other team's bench, good shit. But I don't think you trade Ben Simmons for that. I just don't. Teams like the Spurs and the Magic, they don't really do anything for you in my opinion. They have a lot to gain and not shit to lose. So you can scratch them off as well. Now let's pull a 180 and talk about some of the best teams in the NBA. I'm not talking those really good teams that are gonna make the playoffs, might go to the second round. I'm talking about the couple of teams that everybody swears can win the championship. I can kind of keep this short, bro. Why would they do that? Within reason for every team that applies, including Philly as well. Again, Ben Simmons is 25. He's not exactly the youngest, but that's gonna be a problem for a long time if he's like the 4th best player on a championship team. Even if it was out west, why would you create that? Like, why would you do that if you're Philly? And then if you're one of those really good teams, realistically, they're not gonna ask you for fucking Wayne Ellington and a pick. Like, if Ben Simmons was a net and Kyrie, James Harden, and Kevin Durant were on the same team, the league would look into it. On top of that, if you're a team like the Nets, the Lakers, the Bucks, even if you somehow got a ripoff for Ben Simmons, does it really help what you got going on? Like, I know the ideology of fuck it, take the best player is cool and all, but imagine you create a mad weakness in your team just because you just had to get Ben Simmons, when you could have just had the right role players around the star talent you already have on the team. I don't think it makes sense for anybody really, so the true contenders, you can pack that up as well. So now it's like, what do you do with the teams in the middle of the pack? The teams that are like, they're kinda good, but they're not good enough. Maybe Ben Simmons will move that neat? The answer is no. Not because it wouldn't benefit Philly for the most part, but actually for the other team. I don't even need to waste my time for this. His value literally dropped because he showed that he's not that guy, pal. He's not that guy. I know I just said he's underrated, but let's keep it a beam. If you're already a team stuck in the middle that's trying to ascend, like the Knicks or the Mavericks, not only do you not trade for Simmons with that intent, but honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, even from Philly's perspective, what are you gonna get from those kind of teams? Kevin Knox in a first? Tim Hardaway in a second? Like, bro, you're trying to win a championship. What the hell? And lastly, and this is gonna sound corny, but any middle of the pack team with a crazy strong fan base, keep Ben from that, bro. He just got done with Philly fans. He don't need to get dogged up in the TD Garden or New York or something like that. It's just something that doesn't need to happen. It's literally a setup. I'm not wasting my time arguing that. So depending on the amount of time I have to edit this, and I don't script my videos, that's why I'm saying it like this, but I've either made a graphic for it, or I'm just gonna plainly tell you right now, the teams that are remaining based off of everything I've covered in this video are the Wizards, the Pacers, the Raptors, the Blazers, and the Rockets. Actually, now that I'm thinking about the Rockets, Christian Wood's only 25. You have Jalen Green. You probably don't want to separate them rather than try them out. Yeah, fuck what I said about the Rockets. I thought they were going to be an anomaly at first, but nah, they fit in that category of young star player on a bad team. But when it comes to Portland, I know what you guys are thinking. You just said if you're in the middle of
the pack, don't try to get Ben Simmons. He won't make you any better.
Well, if you look at what I said very laterally, that's correct. But Portland's an anomaly here. They gotta try something. If I see one more year, Dame, Nurk, and CJ trying to ball up in the West, I'm gonna lose my mind, because look at what's around you and ask yourselves, how do you think that's good enough? On top of that, the harsh reality of the Portland situation is right now, Dame does look pretty oblivious, or just 10 toes with the fact that he wants to do it for Portland, yay! And after seeing Giannis's ring, he might be inspired. But at some point, he gonna crack, bro. I'm telling you now, at some point, the ineptitude's gonna get to him and he gonna ask for a trade. And when that happens, if you're about to be left with CJ McCollum, that's tough. So anything centered around a CJ for Ben trade is perfect for both sides. For Joel Embiid and the 76ers, you get a guy who's capable of shooting 40% from 3 on 8 threes a night, and he genuinely be the best shot creator on your team. In fact, he's one of the better shot creators in the league. Even if somehow one of you guys think I'm gassing CJ McCollum, at bare minimum, you expect this guy to get you 20 points and shoot well from 3. And when I say shoot well from 3, I mean the dude's career average from 3 is 39.8%. That's pretty fucking good, you know what I'm saying? He also has one of the better mid-range games in the league. Now, yes, you do take a hit defensively and playmaking wise, but considering you're a team with Joel Embiid, Matisse Thybulle, and I think Danny Green's still on the roster? Either way, my point is your defense ain't gonna be but so much worse. Yes, Ben is astronomically a better defender than CJ McCollum, but it's not like Philly's defense about to suck because of this trade. The playmaking's gonna take a hit for sure, but I think there'll be a manageable offense regardless. On top of that, Seth Curry kinda showed in 4K that a guy like CJ McCollum is only gonna be a positive for this team. In terms of Philly's postseason, there was times where Seth Curry looked like their second best player. A juiced up version of him, yes, a little bit worse of a three-point shooter, would be CJ McCollum. Hell, it's a reason this trade is often the trending one when it comes to Ben Simmons trades, because it's kinda obvious, and I'm not for being different just to be different. It checks out for both sides 100%. But what is a different perspective, or at least one that I'm not hearing enough, and it's probably because Ben Simmons himself wouldn't want to go there, and I don't blame him for it, but Ben to Indiana is perfect, and I mean perfect, for everyone involved, including Ben himself. You might be able to argue CJ is slightly a better scorer and slightly a better shot creator, but Malcolm Brogdon would be a much better benefit for this Philadelphia 76ers team. You don't lose that much on the playmaking. You don't lose that much defensively. And you get damn near the same impact scoring wise. On top of that, considering that Malcolm Brogdon's somewhat of an underrated player right now, you probably walk away with an extra asset, whether it's a draft pick or player, that you wouldn't get if you get CJ. And the Pacers' whole thing was having above average bench players and above average starters, but not really having that star player to take them over the hump. So that extra asset that you're gonna get from the Pacers is gonna be really, really good. At worst, a first round draft pick. I don't think I need to convince you guys of this argument, so let's just move on to the Pacers. As I alluded to earlier, they desperately need to take a step back. I know some of you guys still believe small markets can't win, or some of you guys still believe that it's okay to consistently be an 8 to 10 seed, as long as you're never the laughing stock of the NBA. Well, guess what? Ben Simmons is capable of not only protecting that, like I don't think Ben Simmons to the Pacers makes them one of the worst teams in basketball, but simultaneously gives you hope for the future and a change for your franchise. And there's a lot of players on the Pacers right now who would play well with Ben Simmons. Holy shit, now that I'm thinking about it, Simmons, LeVert, insert shooter, Sabonis, Turner. That team might make the playoffs anyway. Arguably has a better shot like dog. I love this trade for both teams. Now let's get to Ben Simmons specifically. He'd be going to a franchise where they not tripping if they don't make the playoffs. They not tripping if they do make the playoffs. But one thing's for certain, if Ben Simmons went to Indiana, he ain't got no press coverage on his ass. Guys like TSO Sage probably ain't gonna talk about him because what the hell, he's in Indiana. And whether he kicks it into a different gear because he was traded from a contending major market to, again, Indiana, or the franchise just says, screw all this, let's lock in on Ben Simmons, he's our future. Whatever the reason, either way, it's a really good chance if Ben Simmons goes to the Pacers, you're gonna see a better version of Ben Simmons than you would ever see in Philadelphia. And that's just something the NBA wants as a whole. The more stars, the better, and if Ben Simmons can actually become a talent that people like around the league, he already has the name. He'd be box office at that point. He'd be the reason the Pacers become relevant again. Now his confidence is back up, and as I said earlier, everyone wins. This is probably where I want Ben Simmons to go the most, although you can argue it's unrealistic because at the end of the day, if he has any say within the franchise, That boy don't want to go to Indiana. Toronto, to a lesser degree, is on the same type of timing. You get a guy like Fred VanVleet or Pascal Siakam. No, you're not getting both. And exchange one of them for Ben Simmons. Admittingly, if I'm Philly, I probably prefer Fred VanVleet, but at the end of the day, you are getting one of those two perimeter players who can not only score the ball outside of 10 feet, but want to score the ball outside of 10 feet. By the way, the reason I prefer Fred over Pascal is because he's just that much of a better shooter. Pascal's very inconsistent, sometimes just flat out bad. But either way, it's the same appeal as the Brogdon situation. You probably get another asset that you wouldn't get from CJ McCollum in the Blazers. However, I think this is the worst situation for Philly. I don't think Fred nor Pascal are quite up to par when you compare them to Malcolm Brogdon or CJ McCollum, let alone the potential deals from either of those franchises. But it's still something and probably an improvement. In Toronto, self-explanatory, they become massive winners. They probably weren't going to make the playoffs no matter what they did, and now they have a future. Now, Washington is obviously the biggest reach of this whole video. If somehow you can end up with Bradley Beal, you won. I think I said earlier that the Pacers situation is the best situation of all these teams, but I was saying that in terms of the realistic options in this video. Again, if the 76ers somehow get Bradley Beal, even playing devil's advocate, yes, it's arguable that the Pacers deal may help the current 76ers team become better next season. But there's no way you're about to tell me that if Embiid and Beal are on the same team, you head into the next offseason with that, you can't come out with a much better team than you would with Malcolm Brogdon. But this is a dream-like scenario, and Washington probably doesn't do it anyway because they're pretty ignorant them damn selves. Now, to really wrap this video up, obviously there's more than just these 4 options. I just think these are the 4 best options. I know some of you guys probably looking at a D'Lo for Simmons trade, and Ben to Golden State's a popular one, but I don't think either of those really work. With the Timberwolves, why give up Cat, D'Lo, and Ant so early? They didn't even play together yet, even though I do admit Ben Simmons and Cat would go crazy. So actually no bullshit with that one specifically, I just think it's not gonna happen. However, with Golden State, I don't really know, bro. Because I know for many of you guys, it's, oh, they got the young assets, just trade that for Ben Simmons. Here's the thing, Golden State passed up potential trades for all-star caliber players for these young assets. You know what that means? They believe in these young assets, bro. And when I say they believe in them, I'm not talking about a couple years down the line. They think a guy like Kuminga, a guy like Moses Moody, James Wiseman, the Pool Party, all of those young players will help them win a chip tomorrow. I don't know if you just say, fuck that, let me get Simmons of all people, you know what I'm saying? Also, how the cap gonna work? You gonna trade Draymond? That's a terrible idea. Yes, ideally, Ben is essentially a better version of Draymond Green, but up here, bro, mentally, you don't do that. And I'm being so serious, you trade away Draymond Green from that Warriors team. I get it's fun to smoke Draymond packs sometimes, but I promise you that may have a bad effect on the franchise, bro. And as far as Andrew Wiggins goes, he done proved his value to the team. Honestly, he might be a key part to them being a really good one. So to me personally, the whole Warriors thing is like, it could happen, but it's such a high risk, high reward situation when you have Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. You really don't need to do that. That whole situation seems like it could possibly happen. Hell, there's reports that the Warriors are the favorites for Simmons, but if I'm Golden State, I do that mid-season. I get more information on the young pieces I have now, rather than doing the deal tomorrow, you know what I mean? But hey, that's just my personal opinion, and if there's one thing we can all agree on, Simmons staying in Philly long-term, it's just not the move, bro. It's not the move. It's not gonna work. But that's gonna do it for today's video. It's me, your boy TSO Sage. I ain't said this in a while, but I got goals, man. I'm trying to hit 50K by the end of the year. So, and some of you missed me saying this apparently, if you guys like the video, like the video. If you like my content, subscribe. Why the fuck you watching my shit and you're not subscribed? It's me, your boy TSO Sage. I'ma holla at y'all later. Take care and stay blessed.